3, you get 6, and then when you have 6, you get 3.
It's true.
Now, if I had great self-interest, I would ask that that be removed in the editing process.
Keeping it.
But the universal vote in the room is to keep it. Okay, be that as it may, hi everybody. So there are so many good questions. I am going to just go to questions as opposed to my opening comments, which I do 95% of the time. So let's start. Let's start with the questions, beginning with the video question.
Hello, my name is Colton Marshall. I'm a student from Tomball, Texas, attending the University of North Texas, where I founded a Turning Point USA chapter. I'm also currently interning in Washington, D.C. with the Leadership Institute. My question today is, how could young conservatives thrive in the world of media given the current political climate? Also, do you think the media is more biased today in the 2024 election in contrast to the 2016 election? Let me know your thoughts.
I did it. Let me get that clear. How would young conservatives thrive in the world of media given the current political climate? I think you mean, is it the climate? Given the rest of your question, I think you mean given that the media are so left, how could a young conservative thrive there? And do I think the media is more biased today in contrast to the 2016 election? Okay. I have no idea how a young conservative can thrive in mainstream media today. They don't want you. They don't want to hear what you have to say. You would have to hide who you are. I am unaware of almost any conservatives in mainstream media. I would go further. I am unaware of almost any non-leftist in mainstream media, whether it's in the news or the opinion arenas. To give you folks an idea of how dramatic this is, forget how awful it is, how dramatic. I wrote for years for the Los Angeles Times, which, to say the least, would not be interested if I sent them a column of mine. But they published me regularly. In fact, they have an article. I actually didn't even, I vaguely remembered it, but there's an article in the LA Times. You can look it up. It's on the internet now because of the archives of newspapers. It's a very long article on Dennis Prager as a Los Angeles talk show host. Before I became national in the late 90s, I was only on in Los Angeles. And it is it's probably the most positive article ever written about me, and it is in the Los Angeles Times. It gives you an idea of how dramatically leftward the media have gone, just using me as an example and the Los Angeles Times, where it was a given. In fact, they even had column left, column right. That was one of the ways in which they published me, sometimes without even just column right, but often with that. So I have no good answer for you. I don't know, without utterly hiding your values, I don't know how you would make it in any mainstream medium today, whether it's radio or television or newspapers, websites, whatever it might be. There are many arenas that are closed off. How would you make it in academia today if you were a conservative and they knew you were? Do you know how many universities have demanded that you sign a DEI statement in order to be hired? A diversity, equity, inclusion. You must sign it. It's like a loyalty oath, but it's loyalty to leftism, not loyalty to America or to liberty or anything else. But I don't, by the way, I don't believe they should have to sign any loyalty oath, a professor, not to America or anything else. They should sign a loyalty oath to truth. That's the only loyalty I really want from a professor. Teach me to the best of your ability what is true. Okay, so I don't have a happy answer for you on part one. Do I think it's worse today than when? The 2016, it's a little worse. But it wasn't good then. But today, the media in the United States, and for that matter, most Western countries, the major media, whether it's the BBC in the UK or the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, in Canada. I remember I had a former Prime Minister of Canada. What was his name?
Harper?
Yeah. What's his first?
Stephen Harper?
Yeah, Stephen Harper. I had a dialogue with him at a PragerU event, and he said the CBC is way worse than CNN or any of your other, which is hard to believe. But anyway, it just gives you an idea. It's a stranglehold. Just look at the reporting, not just on the West, but on the Middle East. To be neutral between Israel and those who wish to annihilate it. It's a battle. By the way, I'm not saying we're going to lose the battle. I'm not saying we're going to win the battle, but it is a battle. They have not won yet. Okay, let's move on here. So Prager United question. So I ask you all to please go to PragerUnited.com and see if you would like to sign up and contribute to making the Fireside Chat and everything else continue to be free. And there are a lot of benefits to joining Prager United that you get from PragerU. Just go to the website and check that out. One of the, I can't say major benefits, but one of the benefits is that your question is first answered. And we have one from Huma M. in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Hi, Dennis. I am curious to know your view on arranged marriages. One of the things I love, that's why I love to take the questions, is first of all, how varied the subjects are. And I'm thrilled about that because I think about almost everything. I don't think about gardening, just as an example. I don't want to claim I think about everything. So if you have a gardening question, I'll give it to Jeff, but he's really into gardening, but I wouldn't be able to answer it. So I'm curious to know your view on arranged marriages. These are still common in many cultures, including Orthodox Judaism. Those who are for it argue that it gives the marriage more meaning because it's something, quote, bigger than you. What are your thoughts? Thank you. I never heard that argument. I'm trying to figure that out. So our culture is for arranged marriages because marriage is bigger than you. I guess to the extent that that is ever said, what it would mean is your wants are secondary. Right? That's what it would mean. So here's my, I've thought about this a lot. There are a lot of arranged marriages. Most marriages in history have been arranged. Many of them worked out and many of them didn't work out. Many of the marriages that are not arranged work out and many of them don't work out. There is no way to guarantee that you'll marry the right person. One of the reasons is you may not be the right person. People don't think that way. It's funny when people say, well, if it's the right person. That's true, but they'll be saying the same thing about you. Maybe you're not the right person for them. It's no reflection necessarily on either of you. You know, not every divorce involves a villain. It's this important little realization to make. A lot of fine people don't get along or don't have a good marriage. It is what it is. I am romantic in the sense that people think of the term romantic. Like, I'm very loving to my wife. I regularly bring her a Trenta iced coffee with extra ice. Regularly. And no, I am pretty romantic, actually. But the word romantic, that's a very narrow part, the one that comes from the word romance. But romantic in the philosophical sense is, it doesn't mean what it means when we talk about lovers. It's romantic is a wishful thinking of a romantic view of life, or a romantic view of marriage, or a romantic view of children, romantic view of work or of my country, where you engage really in wishful thinking. With regard to marriage, there's a lot of wishful thinking, that there is some really excellent way to know you're going to get the right person or choose the right person. So you won't, but your parents will get the right person. Or not your parents, but you will get the right person, the one you fall in love with. There is no answer. I am not for arranged marriage because I am for human liberty. With liberty comes risk. With liberty comes pain. But of course, the obvious answer is with arranged marriages, there's pain too. So there's no answer to your question. I find it difficult to imagine that most people living in the world and not in a sort of cultural cocoon would be for arranged marriage. What you might be referring to, because I am not familiar, and I know the Orthodox Jewish world very well, I am not familiar with arranged marriages in the Orthodox world. What the ultra-Orthodox, certainly not in the modern Orthodox is similar to anybody else, but in the ultra-Orthodox world, the parents will very frequently be involved in saying to their son or daughter, there's a couple that has a great son or a great daughter, and they come from a wonderful family, and you guys should meet each other. And very often the son or daughter will listen to them. That's not an arranged marriage, because the son or daughter does not have to marry the person that the parents have suggested that one meet. So that's very important. So I don't know where there's arranged marriage within Jewish life. I certainly don't know where there is in Christian life, at least in the Western world. So there might be more perhaps in traditional India and traditional China, perhaps. I don't know. I simply don't know. But I wouldn't romanticize arranged marriage, and it's very, very rare, even among the group that you mentioned. Blair, 14 years old in Alabama. Hi, Dennis. My entire family has gone to college, and it's always been expected that I would do the same. But I'm considering just getting a job after I graduate high school and not going into debt to a degree I may not ever need. I want to homeschool my kids. What do you think about this? Thanks. So I started to laugh because we're really watching the circle come around. It used to be where people said, I was the first in my family to go to college. You're going to be to say, I'm the first in my family not to go to college. So I salute you. I told my kids, and all of my friends know this is true. This is not ex post facto. I didn't care if they went to college. I didn't care if they went to college, what college they got into. I cared only about their character. That's all I care. That's how I raised them. That was my concern. If you have a good character and don't have particularly bad luck, you will get ahead in life. That's the way it works. Because good character means that you work on yourself, that you fight your bad tendencies, that you work hard, that you establish a family if possible. So why won't you succeed? You will. By the way, I wish I had it in front of me, but there was just an article that there's a whole new crop of millionaires who are plumbers. Yes, it was just sent to me by my producer of my radio show, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are many plumbers who make more than many doctors do today. Which, by the way, I'm not necessarily happy about. I always thought it was good that doctors made a lot of money. I want people who save people's lives to make a lot of money. I would like, it's an area where you want people to be paid well. But anyway, the medical profession has lost a lot of its honor and dignity in any event, which is very sad to me. But it just, again, I don't romanticize doctors or any other profession for that matter. So I agree with you that one of the American political parties would like to forgive billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. Is it? Are we up to that? But billions of dollars in debt. You realize the immorality of that position? You are saying to all those who repaid their student debts, you were a sucker. That is what in the United States of America, one of our parties, we all know which, I don't have to say it, is announcing to Americans. If you paid your student loan, you were a fool, because we'll bail you out. The idea that I take on voluntarily a debt and then other people will pay my debt for me, that's what I mean. There's no such thing as the government will pay your debt. The government took the money from another American or another whatever country you live in. I get into debt and the guy across the street is going to pay it for me. Why is that moral? So I'm with you, Blair. And if your parents, I'm not saying they do have any trouble with this, but if they do, have them watch this episode. Okay, Lacey, 43, Fremont, California. Hi, Dennis. I appreciate how you encourage marriage and how pro-Christian you are when you're not even a Christian yourself. I understand you've been divorced and remarried. I'm about to be married for the second time to a wonderful man. That's a good thing, because if you don't want to be married to a non-wonderful man on the second try. So my question is, how can you help marriage go the distance the second time around? The same way you would the first time around. I don't know why the question is any different. How do you make a marriage work? Well, the most obvious answer is that you have to be a balanced and healthy individual, and you have to marry a balanced and healthy individual. To make a marriage work, you really need two mature people. And even then, it may not necessarily work because they just may not get along. There's no guarantee, no matter what, that a marriage will work. But you have a far greater chance with two healthy people, healthy morally, healthy psychologically, than if only one is. That's both a criterion for a good marriage, and a good marriage produces it. In other words, mature people make good marriages, and good marriages make mature people. I don't know anyone who was ever married. I can't speak for the handful of people who were horribly abused, but overwhelmingly, everyone I know is married, including those who've been divorced, would say that they matured as a result of being married. We don't use the word mature anymore. It's like the M word. One doesn't even bother using it. But that's what it means. So that's the answer. Other than that, I have 100 little little pieces of advice. I'll give you one. How do you decide if the two of you want to do different things? How do you decide which one should get their way? I mean, even on little things, like if you want to go to a restaurant, this one wants Italian and this one wants sushi. So my attitude is give in to the one for whom that issue is more important. So take my example, my wife's a vegetarian. I'm not going to go to a sushi restaurant with her. It just that makes perfect sense. It's clearly more important to her. I'm totally happy eating in a non-sushi restaurant. Fine with me, even if that's what I want that night. It's a little example, but most of life is composed of little examples. And but other than that, you want a person who is basically healthy. Everybody has issues, but my wife has a very good term for what you don't want. You don't want someone with a black box. That's her term. I had never heard it before. It's a good. You want to feel that you know the person. If you sense that you don't, that's at least a yellow flag and probably a red flag. Okie dokie. Let's see now. Got a question from Belgium, from William in Leuven, Belgium. I'm looking for ways to support the state and the people of Israel. Thank you. And then he mentions an organization which I was not familiar with, so I won't mention that one. What I read sounds very good. Can you suggest any similar organizations that you trust? Special thanks for all your work. I find it very inspirational. Good. So I would contact the Israeli embassy in Brussels and just say I would like to help out in a financial way, and can you guide me to a good way to do it? Or ask a synagogue in Brussels. The rabbi of a synagogue might have a good answer to that. Connor, 19. Bellingham, Washington. Thank you for all that you do. I would describe myself as a liberal, and I appreciate the distinction you make between liberals and leftists. I was wondering about your thoughts on the differences between the right and conservatives, and where you find wisdom or have issues with the right. So generally speaking, I don't know of a big difference between conservative and right. I can give you, and I have written it up, you could all find it on the internet, differences between liberals and conservatives. I've done a PragerU video on the subject. That liberals, some of the big examples, liberals believe deeply in capitalism. Leftists loathe capitalism. And let's see. Oh yeah, I mentioned this years before October 7th. Liberals have always supported Israel. Leftists have always hated Israel. Basically the same with America. Leftists hate America. Liberals have loved America. I'll give you an example. Liberals in the 1930s created the Superman comic strip. Superman was born on another planet, came to Earth with superpowers, and ended up in America, adopted by an American couple. And Superman loved America. In fact, the Superman television series in black and white that I saw as a very little boy, what was it about? Truth, justice, and the American way. That's what Superman stood for. truth, justice, and the American way. Not anymore. In fact, a few decades ago, leftists took over the Superman comic, and they had him renounce his American citizenship, standing in front of the United Nations and announcing, I am no longer a citizen of the United States of America. I'm now a citizen of the world. It's a perfect example. Superman went from patriotic American, truth, justice, and the American way, to dropping that motto of his and even dropping his American citizenship. He was now a world citizen, whatever the hell that means. That's when the left took over the Superman comic strips. But I don't have a similar difference between right and conservative. Now, right now, I will say there are more pronounced differences within the right, and they concern America first. I totally support America first. I hope that my Belgian questioner is for Belgium first. Of course you put your country first. My difference is not with those who say America first, but who either say or mean America only. That's a big difference. I got that from my Jewish teachings. One of the basic teachings in Judaism is that one of the two greatest rabbis of the Talmud, the second holiest work of Judaism, said, Im eina nili mili. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I am only for myself, what am I? It's a great saying. You have to be for you first. That's the way the world works. Who's going to be for you if you're not for you? But you cannot only be for you. So this notion of we don't have any moral obligation as the strongest country in the world, we Americans have no moral obligation to anyone, to any other country, to any other people. Let them all get killed, get them all wiped out, let them all starve. It's none of our business. I don't share that at all. As a religious person, I don't understand how any religious Jew or Christian could have that view, because it's not in keeping with the Bible. There's a law, in I think it's in Exodus, do not stand by the blood of your neighbor. You can't watch terrible things happen. Now, does that mean America intervenes everywhere? No, it's not possible. But it doesn't mean it intervenes nowhere. Anyway, if America intervenes nowhere, then you will have a massive amount of cruelty on earth, as we have seen with in the last few years. So there is a rift developing on the right. I wouldn't say it's between the conservatives and the right, just a rift. All right, how's our timing?
Do one more.
Well, it's all even. Oh, okay. Oh, this is adorable. It's a perfect one. Ben, 16 years old, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hi, Mr. Prager. I hope you and your family are doing well. Thank you. I would like to ask, what is it like to be famous or well-known? So I have a different answer than most people who are famous or well-known. It doesn't play a very big role in my own self-awareness. I don't wake up, look in the mirror in the morning as I'm about to brush my teeth or comb my hair and think, wow, you're famous. In fact, I never even think about it until people ask me for a selfie. And my first reaction is, why me? Everyone who knows me well, I have wonderful friends in my life. They know this has not played a role in my ego or anything like that. But a lot of famous people, they live for fame. And It's not only obnoxious, it's self-destructive, because very few people remain famous all of their life. Sports figures, music artists, politicians, most people retire. The vast majority. Actors. How many people who go to Hollywood do it because they love acting, and how many do it primarily because they want to be famous? They want to see their name on a billboard. I know this is true, but I know it is true for another reason. When I have spoken, and I do periodically speak to young kids, I ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? Many of them will answer famous. Not doctor, not lawyer, not carpenter, not engineer. Famous. Then I ask them, famous for what? And then they answer, they think for a moment, and they answer, anything. And I go, like, famous for most hot dogs eaten? Yeah. That's after all what Instagram and TikTok are about, right? Famous for anything. I just want to have fame. I want to be an influencer. It's very sad. It's really sad because by definition, there will always be a limited number of famous people. By definition, not everyone can be famous. If everyone's famous, no one's famous. So it's going to be a terrible road. I know someone who aches to be famous. And it has destroyed his relationships. It has destroyed his ability to do good, because that's what he most wants. I have a saying which is really, really important. The significant are rarely famous, and the famous are rarely significant. Never think that fame and importance are synonymous. They're not. There are vast numbers of important people who are not famous, vast numbers of famous people who are not important. Now, a lighter side to answer your question. What is it like to be? It's a lark. I get a kick out of it, not for ego reasons, but because it's a hoot. The things that people come over and say to me, I'll never forget a young couple at one airport. They go, holy, and then a whole string of expletives. Dennis Prager. The F word, the S word, the whole thing. We got a selfie together. So those are fun moments. By the way, I will say, interestingly, the great majority of people who do approach me, it's usually restaurants or airports, they're very sweet about it. They are even hesitant often to even ask for a selfie. So I always suggest it. And they go, oh, it's okay with you? Which I always find sweet. Why would it not be okay with me to have a selfie with somebody? But that's a good example of my own attitude. Who the hell am I to say no to someone who would like a selfie with me? I mean, I'm honored by that fact. I don't take it for granted that people would have that reaction to me. They want a selfie. So it's a good question, but don't aim for it. Aim to be a good person. It's a much more important thing. And there are still questions left, and we still run out of time. So this is the Fireside Chat, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. The Fireside Chat is made possible solely thanks to Prager United members. Please consider joining Prager United at pragerunited.com.